Welcome to Health News and Views, a podcast dedicated to bringing some clarity to the health disparities in the Black and Brown communities. If you believe there's a connection between food, sickness, and health, then you're in the right place. Let's begin the process of unraveling the truth. And now, your host, Lynn Pete.
Greetings and welcome back to another episode of Health News and Views, Food, the Final Frontier. I am your host, Lynn Pete. Well, thanks for stopping by. Did you hear that applause? That was for you. And if you're hearing this podcast today for the first time or you're revisiting as a valued listener, then thank you too. That applause was for you as well. You and your opinion are appreciated here. I hope that you find time to like, share, and comment on what you'll hear even today. So your input also helps us explore the topics that concern you the most. And here's one that I'm hoping that you get as much traction out as I did. On January 3rd of this year, the Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, announced the latest health warning. I didn't exactly call it a boogeyman report, but it is helpful and we do need the information. And this report stated that there is a link between alcohol and cancer. Have you heard of this? Well, here's what it read. I'll read this to you from the Surgeon General's office. Today, the United States Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, released a new Surgeon General advisory on alcohol and cancer risk, outlining a direct link between alcohol consumption and increased cancer risk. Alcohol consumption is the third leading preventable cause of cancer in the United States, and that's only after tobacco and obesity, increasing the risk for at least 7 types of cancers. And while scientific evidence for this connection has been growing over the past 4 decades, less than half of Americans recognize it as a risk factor for cancer. Okay, 4 decades? What was the holdup with this information? How much more data was required before they made the announcement? And what was the rush to tell us now? It seems to me that as important as this topic is, it didn't quite strike me as new information. How about you? So, today we're going to dive into the history and the evolution of these warnings from the Surgeon Generals of the past while focusing on this latest advisory linking alcohol to cancer. Let's explore what this really means for our health. But first, the subject matter provided in this podcast or any of our published documents is for informational purposes only. Food, the Final Frontier, and our partner Health News and Views. We do not attempt to treat, diagnose, or cure any disease or condition. Always check with your healthcare provider before making any lifestyle, dietary, or prescription drug changes. Now here's a brief history of the Surgeon General's warnings. Over the years, the role of the U.S. Surgeon General, which, by the way, was established way back in 1871 as part of the Marine Hospital Service, primarily addressed public health issues. And over time, it became a platform for crucial health advisories. And I picked about maybe 5 of these landmark warnings over the last 50 years that have held up and have provided us with information that we really needed and used. Did you know in 1964, smoking and health was the pivotal warning from the Surgeon General's office? The groundbreaking report linked smoking to lung cancer and heart disease, leading to a mandatory warning on all cigarette labels. So first labeling the cigarettes in 1964, that came first. By 1970, advertising for cigarettes was off the TV. No more ads for advertising nicotine in cigarettes. That was Smoking and Health Report. That was 1964. 1988, they gave us a report that declared that nicotine is as addictive as heroin or cocaine. And I think that was C. Everett Koop. I think it was that particular Surgeon General. But it changed our perceptions about smoking, having this nicotine addiction. In 2001, obesity epidemic. They realized that we had a problem here. A report highlighting obesity in 2001 was a major public health crisis, linking it to chronic illnesses like diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. In 2016, e-cigarettes and youth. There was a warning that came out about the dangers of the e-cigarettes, particularly for teens and young adults. And now in 2025, we're looking at alcohol and cancer. And this latest advisory is linking the consumption of at least 7 types of cancers, emphasizing the urgency of public awareness. Alcohol and cancer, a new warning, decades in the making. The recent advisory from Dr. Vivek Murthy underscores something researchers have known for decades, and that was alcohol is a carcinogen. Are we just finding that out? Studies as far back as the 1980s linked alcohol to cancers of breast, liver, throat, and more. However, this public messaging and awareness campaigns lag behind. Well, what's the current situation? Currently, cases of cancer cases associated with alcohol are rising, with younger populations also affected due to binge drinking trends. Well, alcohol holds the place card for number 3, the third leading preventable, because they say you can prevent this, yes? The third leading preventable cause of cancer in the United States, following, again, tobacco and obesity. What's with the delay? Why did it take 4 decades to present this information? Well, they say it's societal acceptance of drinking. Like, we think it's okay, it's cool to, it's a party, we're having a drink, right? Okay. Industry lobbying that resisted stronger warning labels. Like the industry itself said, we don't want any stronger warnings on the labels than it's already there. Public health policies that focused more on immediate risks like drunk driving. That took issue. That was a couple of years ago too. Alcohol consumption in most families, not all, but most, was the hallmark of most special occasions like weddings and funerals and holiday parties and graduations and even cookouts. Going to also mention there is a biblical reference in the New Testament that tells that Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, his first miracle was to turn the water into wine at a wedding. So this alcohol thing's been going on for a while. While the information is needed, I'm just concerned that other issues like chronic kidney disease, obesity, diabetes, Alzheimer's, a form of dementia, didn't make the cut on his advisory warning. That too is a problem. And these diseases in some areas are even at epidemic proportions. So let's not just put that glass of wine down. There's some far more dangers, I think, that require the Surgeon General's attention. And the Surgeon General's office wants to send us a warning. Well, let's not just stop with alcohol. What about the other risks that deserve warnings beyond alcohol? And there are some daily exposures that could merit stricter health advisories too. But get this, the World Health Organization has categorized processed meats, for example, like hot dogs, as Group 1 carcinogens. What does that mean? That means that Group 1 carcinogens are the category of substances that have the strongest evidence of being cancer-causing in people. Other things that fall into this category can include, tobacco and asbestos. Those are all Category 1s. A child's risk of developing a brain tumor from eating 1 hot dog a week is 7 times higher than their risk of developing one as a result of regular use of a cell phone. Eating hot dogs also increases a child's risk of leukemia by 950%. And you're telling me put down the glass of wine? That daily soft drink can be harmful too, especially to your liver, as damaging as alcohol. So if you're partaking in a can or a bottle of soda a day, you're at risk too. And once it reaches the liver, the sugar in beverages, especially the sugary beverages, that sugar can get converted into fat. And that would be the high fructose corn syrup sugar that gets stored into fat, because the liver recognizes regular sugar. It's like, hey, sugar, come on in. But high fructose corn syrup is not recognized immediately. So the liver will store it away as fat. And over time, fat can lead to fatty liver disease, which can, if it doesn't improve, cause severe scarring to the liver, also known as cirrhosis. And that can be potentially life-threatening. And that may surprise a lot of people, that you can get cirrhosis of the liver and have never had a drink or drink seldomly. Did you know that? So even one sugary drink a day after 5 to 7 years can lead to fatty liver disease. NFALD, they call it non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I discussed that a couple of years ago in some of the earlier podcasts. That makes you susceptible to heart disease, diabetes, and while also increasing your risk of cancer of the colon, pancreas, and the esophagus, just to name a few. In the past 20 years, liver transplants due to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease related to cirrhosis has increased from 5.3% to 23%. That's a pretty big increase. And yes, there's more. Beside the sugary drinks that are linked to obesity, type 2 diabetes, certain cancers, these drinks still remain the staple of many diets. WHO, the World Health Organization, and the CDC studies show that the rising cancer risks are tied to excessive sugar consumption, not the glass of wine or the occasional drink. Obesity, the second leading preventable cause of cancer, as mentioned earlier, also contributes to cancer of the breast, colon, kidney, and the pancreas. And the root cause of that? Poor diet choices, sedentary lifestyles, and misleading marketing of healthy processed foods. Well, of course, we have tobacco in there. Ultra-processed foods containing additives like artificial sweeteners and preservatives and ultra-processed foods have been linked to inflammation and increased cancer risk too. We're just eating bagged, frozen, packaged foods. But that also has a link to cancer as well. For example, potassium bromate. Have you heard of that? You should. And it's banned in other countries, but it's still legal in the United States. And they know that it's a cancer-causing agent. What does it do? It makes the pretzel softer. It makes bread, too. And some people still use it. Some industries are still using it in bread. It keeps the outside crust crusty and keeps the texture of the bread inside softer. So you have a nice crispy outside and softer inside. And that's because of potassium bromate, which is also a carcinogen. How about the seed oils that are used for snacks? Anyway, I'm going off on a rant here. All right, what can we do now? Let's heed the advisory warning from the current Surgeon General about the alcohol use and its link to cancer. But let's not be fooled. There are so many other things that are also carcinogens and can also lead to cancer. And while we give attention to one thing, let's also make sure that people are aware that there are other factors that are affecting our health. We can advocate for better regulations and clear warnings on a lot of products. Tell people how much sugar is really in the can. You're telling them in grams. And for people like me who grew up in the United States, we're standard weights and measures. Tell them you have 25, 30 teaspoons of sugar in a single 20-ounce bottle of soda. Just tell them that. Don't tell them it's got 64 grams. And most people don't know what that is, which is why they still drink it. Let's shift to a whole foods and minimally processed foods. Here is a call to action. If the Surgeon General's warnings have taught us anything over the years about smoking, and now about drinking alcohol and the risk of cancer. If the Surgeon General's warnings have taught us anything, it's that public health progress starts with education and individual action. Together we can push for changes that protect our health and the health of future generations. Thank you for tuning in today to this episode of Health News and Views, Food, the Final Frontier. And let's continue this conversation and share this episode with someone that you care about. Together we can make informed choices and demand the changes needed to live healthier lives. Until the next time, stay informed, take care, like, share, comment. Love to hear from you. Have some other topics coming up for 2025 that I think are going to be equally as interesting, for lack of a better term, and hope that you are taking them all in. Make it a powerful day. Don't forget to come back. Be a blessing to someone today. Remember, blessings come back and oftentimes tenfold. Peace.